Somehow, my daughters fell in love with Formula One. I don't know how or why, but I'm not arguing. They may not know wheel, but does anyone?
Hi, and welcome to We Don't Know Wheel F1. I'm Anne.
And I'm Grace.
Hi, everyone. It's Shelly back again.
Welcome to We Don't Know Wheel. We're two sisters who then collected all our friends and said, let's do a podcast about Formula One.
It's been so long since you and I have both been on the podcast together, Grace.
I don't think it's been that long.
The last two podcasts, last one I missed and the one before you missed.
But it was every week. So then it was quick.
Yeah, the races back to back.
Those back-to-back races are a little bit hard to handle.
I know. Well, especially 3 in a row.
And a sprint mixed in there.
I'm ready for summer break.
So, Silverstone.
Yeah, hot takes. Who cried this weekend?
Me.
We really need Sarah here. She's the one who would have she unfortunately actually had it spoiled, but
by herself. She did it to herself.
Yeah.
I feel like
we got a text in the group chat of like, oh no, because she had been working all morning during the race and had just absentmindedly opened Instagram hours after the race, and was lost.
that'll do it.
Big mistake.
Yep.
Actually, Anne, I was thinking that you might have been a little bit because of Checo.
Yeah. Well, what about Shelly and Charles?
No, I wasn't crying. I was just very mopey and sad.
Yeah, you should be concerned for him.
I am. I'm at the point where I just want Red Bull to drop him and not be stuck in this limbo anymore because it's so painful. And I'd rather him get replaced midway through the season, but be able to start fresh with a new team next season and just put this behind him because it's so clearly not working, and it's hard to watch.
Well, do you think he's gonna go to another team, Anne?
I could see Williams or Audi or Haas taking him.
But is he locked into that Red Bull contract? They're like, you're ours, but we're going to not race you.
Do teams have the ability to do that with a contract?
I don't know. I'm not a contractor.
I need a contract lawyer. I need a contract lawyer.
I can't imagine they would have a clause like that, but who knows? But I was hearing that apparently part of Checo's contract is that he can't ever be more than 100 points behind Max.
And he is.
And he can't be a certain number of positions in the drivers' championship behind Max.
And he's exactly that amount. He's not beyond it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Speaking of Max, kind of interesting. Feels like the vibes have changed with Max.
Yeah.
This is just me spitballing. I've only watched one race this year and 2 races last year. But the vibes that I was getting last year was the Max, Super Max. It could have been because I watched the Dutch race. This year, I feel like he's just punching in, punching out, showing up to win the races. Did he have a kid or something?
He's in dad life.
He's in dad life. He's just doing this, getting his paycheck, going home. He's like, I don't care if I'm winning. I'm not here for the glory. I'm here for the.
He was, though, a bit upset with Norris last week. Yeah.
I need to listen to last week's pod to hear your guys' hot takes on that. But I feel like Max is okay. This is just a hot take. I feel like he's just kind of bored. That's the impression that I'm getting.
Yeah. Maybe he needs to be doing interplanetary F1 or something.
Well, I think he does a lot of sim racing. He's more into sim racing these days. He sim races on the same weekends he races Formula One.
Really?
Yes.
That's why.
I feel like he does kind of have a different vibe. And I feel like he's also just, after he won his first championship, he's had a different vibe. But I think he's getting older and realizing that winning a Formula One race is not the only thing that matters in life. And I also I'm sure there's a part of him that he's won 3 championships now, and so he's not fighting to make himself known as the best. But I do think that like when he's on the track, like the way he was racing Norris in Austria to me is the best example of like how he hasn't actually changed as a racer. Like he's still gonna go out all the time, no matter what.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but I think the vibe is a little different between like him and Hamilton. I feel like Hamilton wants to win every single race he's ever
Yeah.
raced.
Yeah.
And I feel like Max is a little more like he wanted it really bad before he got his first world championship. And now he's just kind of in the like, yeah, I like doing good at this. But he's
Yeah.
not like I feel like Hamilton is devastated every race he doesn't win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like
Yeah, I
Hamilton's still
agree.
fighting for that eighth champion?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas I'm like, I don't know, does Max have
No, I
That
think
goal
Max is like,
for-
I might retire.
Right, yeah.
Mm.
Hamilton is very clearly at least from the outside, it looks like he's trying to be the best of the best and specifically beat Schumacher's record of 7 world championships. And
Which he's
Max
tied for right now.
Yeah, Max. I mean, he talks about retiring randomly and just like he doesn't seem to have that same just like constant drive to like beat every single record that exists.
He's got other things to do.
Mhm.
He's
Yeah.
got fine
He has
by being an
work-life
F1
balance.
driver.
When I say he seems bored, I'm like, it just seems like he's kind of ready for the next challenge.
Yeah.
Like he's like, okay, I did this.
Yeah.
I'm really good at it. I've shown that. Like, what's
Yeah.
next?
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about McLaren though. Shelley?
So surprisingly enough, like as a Ferrari fan, I'm just used to the stick now. It's like Fred is majorly screwing things up, and I'm
Whoa,
just
you're
like,
anti-Fred?
he recently was blaming the drivers for the, all the stuff that's going on, whereas McLaren, who did poorly this week, owned up to, their side of things. And so I'm not happy about that from Fred. I'm like, Fred, something's going on. Using the whole MLS spec for the car, you're just like, okay.
What did you think about that?
I'm just like, what's going on at Ferrari? Like,
Because that's the deal,
and
right? Is Charles drove the new updates and Carlos drove the old, which is why Carlos did better. That's what I
yeah,
heard.
yeah. So there's just some stuff going on, and I like, I'm always there for Charles, but I'm like, okay, this week he's not the one to race. It's just too hard or to watch to race. It's just heartbreaking. So now comes McLaren, and
I also think
I'm sick about it.
Oh,
Go ahead, Anne.
when it comes to Charles in this last race, both him and Checo, as soon as they made that pit stop for inners and
Yeah.
nobody else did, like
Over.
their race was completely lost. There is nothing that they were going to be able to salvage from that point. But it was hard to watch. They were just like sitting back in like 16th, 17th, 18th the whole time. And like that doesn't really have anything to do with him driving an old spec car or the new car. It's just
I mean,
really bad choice that they made to go in.
no, I think it was both, Anne. That's what I've been reading is like
Really?
Charles was on the new spec and they knew it was not doing well, which is why he qualified worse. And then there was the double whammy of like bad pit calls.
Yeah.
Because people were saying that Carlos intentionally like saw what was happening with the new spec and was like, yeah, I don't want to drive that because it's not going to do well here. And I'm sure they also were
Good
like,
for Carlos.
I'm sure they wanted Charles to drive, or they want one of the drivers to drive that new spec car to see what it will do. So it just sucks that it was Charles. I'm being nice to Charles, Shelley.
I think it's devastating. He's like, I don't know what to say to any of you guys. We're doing bad. This is not good. I'm like,
I think you have to embrace that if you're going to be a Ferrari fan.
well,
Yeah.
there's just been, I've been on the social media side of things, TikTok side of things. There was this one video that was like, let's flash back to this message that Seb had given Charles. It was like on this helmet.
I
And
saw,
And it was all about like, it was like an uplifting message, right? But there was like this underlying thing of like, Charles, this is your dream too, right? And they were like, maybe Seb was actually trying to get at that. This is your dream too.
Don't let
Stick
Ferrari
with
take
it.
it.
But yeah, don't let Ferrari take it. It might have to happen somewhere else, where I was like, oh, this is so rough. And I'm a huge Seb fan, so I'm like, this is just heartbreaking.
Well, I
all
think that's
parts.
totally true though. Like, and I think that is something that Charles, I think needs, he's not very good at being like, the team is at fault. He always sees himself as at fault. And
Yeah. I mean,
sometimes
Lando
think
does the
that-
same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Lando will be like, I don't have talent. But it's like, sometimes there's a benefit to being like, okay, what went wrong? We need to fix it, rather than just like, I didn't do good enough. Like, there is an aspect of I didn't do good enough, but you're gonna do better in the future if you figure out what
Yeah.
actually
I
went
think a
wrong.
systems approach.
Yeah.
You know what
I
we
will-
didn't get at all this race is a close-up of the eyes. Is that Pierre, who they always do a close-up of
Oh, yeah.
eyes?
Pierre was out.
Did I miss it?
Oh,
They always
don't
do a
talk
close-up
about
of
Pierre.
Charles' eyes.
Pierre?
Pierre didn't even make it.
He got
first.
peed
Oh,
to start.
oh, well, that's why. Okay, that's why. Shows
He
how
was
much
in
I was
jail.
definitely watching the race. I just wasn't.
It all kind of happened, yeah, before
There was a
the
lot
actual
going
race
on.
day. But
Okay.
he was in jail basically, and
Wait,
did not.
He was
No.
not in jail.
Oh,
He was
F1
with
jail.
kids.
oh man. Okay.
But I would be curious to know, going back to the like Charles and Lando always putting all of the blame on themselves and never blaming the team. I would be curious to know how much that changes when it's behind closed doors, just with the team and not with the media around.
But if you
And
think
not
about
with
Lando, like
The
Lando
absence of bad
is
cameras.
Lando
Good
is
point, yeah.
always so like direct. He's not really
Yeah.
media trained. So I feel like he really thinks that. What about
Yeah,
Oscar though? That's who I was like crying for. And I feel like Oscar even said in like the post-race interviews, he was kind of like, no, it was really hard. I'm not really happy. And that's how I said it. No.
Yeah, McLaren
Mhm.
in that pit stop to switch to inners. Like,
They
first of
destroyed his
all,
race.
they like were off by a lap for Lando for the like prime time to switch, and then they made Oscar wait another additional lap behind. But after that, that was a really bad call on McLaren's part. And like all of those decisions when it's pitting as a result of rain are like so tricky and such judgment calls and happened so fast. But McLaren was the one top team that really screwed that up.
Yeah. Did you
Yeah.
love having Ruth on to do the commentary? I was
Yes.
like, she's who we need every
Yeah.
day.
So good.
She was
Yes.
really good at calling out when people were like just incorrect.
Yeah.
They should just have her fully in the commentary box. They don't need to be pulling her in as a special strategist commentary. Just make her part of the commentary box.
Absolutely.
100%.
I learned a lot.
Mhm.
But then when after the race was finished, Mom was saying that she thought like she was saying that Lando had made some mistakes and like that he needs to kind of figure things out and that like he had made the wrong call on tires. And at first I was like, I don't think tires made actually that big of difference. But the more
Lewis
I like
said that they made a difference. Lewis was like, they should have put you on mediums.
yeah, the more I kind of like heard and read stuff after the race, she was right about that one. But I do think like the team should not be asking Lando in that instant which tires do you want. There should have been either a longer conversation beforehand or the team saying, we think this is the best option for these reasons.
Well,
Like the team needed to be more direct and clear in their communication about that to help Lando.
I could be wrong, but I think that they're just showing you that when he's pitting. They are having the conversation long before.
Yeah.
And I think that it is a bit of like, that's kind of what I mean when I'm like, sometimes I think Charles needs to stand up for himself a little bit more. Like, you can't just do what Ferrari tells you.
Yeah.
And being a good driver is saying like, I want the mediums. Like Oscar said he wanted the mediums. The team was kind of telling him he wanted the mediums, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it felt like maybe McLaren was trying to split strategy, and then they were trying to split strategy to like they weren't sure which is right. which is totally fair. I mean, they're all just trying to make the best call possible and they just get lucky. Like Max was saying, like we raced it perfectly. Carlos said the same thing, but they just were lucky they made the right call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is surprising that the teams had so many, or that McLaren had a lot of questions about whether the soft or the medium was going to be the better choice. I mean, they go to Silverstone all the time. They do tire tests at Silverstone. They have lots of data.
Maybe
It's
too much data.
surprising.
Oh, say more, Shelley.
I don't know. Just like all these numbers, I'm just like, oh gosh, like I felt like Ruth knew the entire time, like this is, and it was just like terrible, the choices that were made. And kind of, I think I remember like at one point when Lewis had won, Ruth was like, I called it when, you know, this person went on this tire and it was not gonna, I'm like, Ruth, send that to the team. I don't even know. I'm like, they're making bad calls, like help them out. But I've heard, you know, talks, we've all heard talks, but just how the intent of, and I think this came from the F1 day of, but how it's important to be ahead, right? Strategize so you're ahead and have a game plan. But it really felt from the surface that, you know, these were split decisions made there without maybe having a plan set up. And that ultimately, yeah, took away their 1-2 from McLaren, which is so heartbreaking. Yeah.
I also think it speaks to some larger issues within McLaren that if they want to be a championship winning team, they have to start fixing. Because I mean, Carlos after the race, didn't he talk about how he had like studied the radar and kind of had a game plan in his mind already before the race started what he was going to do, and it for the most part worked out because the radar was what it said it was going to be. Like, how is Carlos able to do that but McLaren isn't?
Same. Yep. That's it. Period. And
Like,
we'll send this to them.
Maybe Carlos has like a job
that's what
done.
Carlos should really do instead
Yeah.
of driving for another team. He should become a strategist.
I mean,
Okay.
I think he could really move and shake some things.
Yeah.
He already has.
He's got a
20
face
years.
for the cameras.
20
And the
years,
cars
he'll go
love
back
him.
to Ferrari as a strategist. Let him finish his
yes.
driving career first.
It's
Yep.
interesting that you don't really see drivers go back and do other jobs, even though
Yeah.
obviously like it takes so like to be a good driver, hopefully you have a lot of those
Well, that's not
aspects.
true. Danny Rick went back to be a merch flag.
Oh.
He's a wine connoisseur now.
Sorry, Jamie, that was a deep cut.
I feel like when Anne was talking about Checo, I was like, yeah, that was me race 3 with Danny Rick. So I've moved on.
It does feel a little wild that I'm seeing rumors that like they might pull Danny Rick up, and I'm like,
That's insane.
Why not
What?
Yuki?
Yeah. It doesn't
And
make
also,
any
like,
sense.
Okay, here's my pitch for why you should do Yuki right now.
okay,
Checo is doing so horribly. He does not have a chance of finishing second in the Drivers' Championship the way it stands, unless something dramatically changes, and I don't think it's going to. He has enough points that if you combine it with a decent second driver, you'll get enough points where you can win the Constructors. Yuki can be that person, and if you switch them right now, you get half a season to see how Yuki does at the big team before you have to make a decision about a full season. So why not give Yuki a chance right now? You literally have nothing to lose.
I feel like there has to be something in Danny Rick's contract that's like saying that he gets that seat if Checo gets kicked out.
That would be,
Yeah,
Could you
that'd be kinda
actually
good.
put
I
that
don't
into
know.
a contract?
Well,
Oh
I understand
gosh.
maybe,
they
and then
put
you're like,
anything.
and then you still probably have a performance contract once you're in the Red Bull. But I feel like it doesn't make sense why they keep talking
Yeah.
about like, oh, we're really gonna move him up. And you're just like, are we really? And then does anyone think Max is really going to Mercedes? That feels like the most unhinged.
I think Toto thinks that.
I know. And then I'm like, how does George feel right now? What's going on with George's mental health?
He's doing bad. After Silverstone, he's down
Yeah.
bad.
He's
That
down
was-
bad. It's wild too that I feel like Toto is like, if we got Max, we could be racy. And you're like, I don't think that's your problem. I also feel like the cars are very different. I don't know.
Yeah, I get that impression too.
Yes, I agree about the cars being very different.
So I'm like, you're gonna put Max in your car and he's gonna be like, well, I hate this car.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like it's really hard to tell right now between like Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes as to
Mhm.
who is gonna be the better car in 6 months or
Oh, yeah,
a year, or
totally.
a
'Cause
year
you
and a
can-
half. Like,
You can
who
barely tell which
knows?
car is better right now.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Like it feels like McLaren is the best car right now, but we don't actually know. And
Yeah.
also McLaren has like thrown away several race wins, so that doesn't help with figuring that out. But it like Red Bull is not the fastest car anymore. It's Max being Max is pulling out wins often enough to keep his lead.
Or is Checo just really terrible?
It's both. It's both.
Oh, it hurts me, and that you're saying these things, but it's also true about
yeah,
Checo.
it's not easy.
Oh,
You should just make a supercut of all of the sad things I've said about Checo in this episode for one in the TikTok.
It does
give
feel
him some time.
I think when the rumors were spreading that Hamilton was going to Ferrari, it felt more like a consistent rumor. But this feels like there's a different rumor like every day, a different vibe.
Mhm.
Definitely.
So is Hamilton going?
What do you mean? Yeah.
It's done.
What's happening?
That became official in January, Hannah.
Well,
but,
there
like,
was
you
still
know-
that question like this weekend of like, hey, you're going to Ferrari. They're not doing that great, Lewis. You know, Mercedes is, you won with them this week. And
Yeah.
I think there's like a
exactly.
meme of George's face, like, but I'm sure things are locked in contracts, but yeah,
But, like-
Ferrari is gonna really have to show out.
Yeah.
They're gonna be
Like, how
Lewis is
locked?
not gonna take it.
I did see a video. I saw like an Instagram reel with it was like Toto talking about the betrayal of Hamilton leaving McLaren or
How about
Mercedes?
the betrayal of Mercedes to Hamilton?
Well, that's literally
Yeah.
every comment was like, you didn't want to give the guy who won multiple world championships an ambassadorship, but you want Max to come to your team. It was just people going off on Toto.
Oh, it's
I did see that
messy.
Fred confirmed today that Hamilton's contract is 3 years with Ferrari, and he confirmed that Mercedes is only offering him a 1+1,
Oh, yeah.
which was like that was what was rumored when it like first came out, but it seems like Fred actually confirmed that today.
How locked in are contracts?
Depends on the contract.
Mm.
And I think
No,
a lot
so
of
there's like a
times-
price on every contract.
Mm.
Where like Danny Rick, his contract was locked in,
for 3 years with McLaren.
Mm-hmm.
but they bought him out for $20 million, which they basically just like paid the rest of his contract, even though he didn't drive for them the last year.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
So it's not really that locked. You're locked in, but like not that locked.
We need a lawyer here.
We need a lawyer.
Where
Call my lawyer.
I don't know much of like F1 history in this area because I'm like, okay, I feel like now I've seen teams be like, I know we're contracted, but we're gonna buy you out, like what happened to Danny. But has it gone the other way? Like, let's say Danny was with McLaren and then because Danny did that with Renault, right? He jumped ship on his
No, he
contract,
was
or
at the
no?
end of his
He
contract.
finished his contract.
How many drivers have we seen, or have we seen any drivers that are like, oh, I'm gonna leave even though I have another year? on my
That's
contract?
actually harder to do, I
Okay.
think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was
Some
that not?
that the team you want to go to can pay the team you're trying to leave to try and get
Yeah.
you free, but I think that's a bit more like what happened to Alex.
Oh,
Or what happened with Oscar? It was some.
Oh, he
Something
was the junior driver at Renault, but
Mm.
Renault notoriously is bad at their paperwork, and so they had never signed a contract saying that he would race for them in the future. They were just holding it in their pocket, and so when he signed with McLaren and Renault was like, he's gonna come race for us, and he was like, I never signed a contract with you.
That's the theme of the weekend.
Oh,
Get it in writing.
get it in right.
Call your lawyer. Get it?
Oh, okay, I did not get that.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. But I feel like Alex, not like fully locked, but like a lot, I think it can happen to you a lot when you're a junior driver, right?
Mhm.
Because you'll
Yeah.
get sponsored essentially through the junior formulas by a team like Red Bull or Ferrari.
Didn't you say
whatever.
Carlos had to basically like wait out his Red Bull contract? And when he was driving for Renault, he had to have gotten permission to
Yeah.
be a Red Bull driver at Renault.
Yeah.
I think similar with Liam Lawson. He's
Oh,
locked in
Mhm.
at Red
Yep.
Bull for I
Yes.
think another year, right? Before he can.
Yeah. A lot of the contracts are
released.
really long. And like same thing I think happened with
Mhm.
Danny Ricciardo. He had a junior contract with them and drove with, I mean, he got pulled up right away, but then
Yeah.
he was still locked in well into his Red Bull career with them.
Right. It was like in 2018 when he switched that was the first time that he had the option to switch
Yeah.
because he had like waited out his entire and done his entire Red Bull contract.
And I think Alex Albon, that's part of why he was just like stuck as a junior
Reserve driver for a
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and also the first year he went to Williams, he was still a Red Bull driver.
Yes.
So the Red Bull on his helmet.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Mhm.
Wow.
His second contract that he signed with Williams was just like himself, completely
Actual.
free from Red Bull.
He's a free man.
I wonder if they throw a party, like when they're released from. I would.
what their next moves
I
are.
would do.
Yeah.
Checo, probably not.
Check. Oh, yeah, that's true. Depends on if you're being let go or if you're being like, caught out.
It is
Probably pretty
Yeah.
different.
like there's so much like intermingling that's going on because isn't Toto like Esteban's manager?
Is he
And-
still his manager? I know he used to be.
No. That's crazy.
Yes. And like a lot of the older drivers are the managers of the younger drivers. It's all
really incestuous.
Incestuous. Yeah.
I did not.
Oh yeah.
And like, you know who Oscar Piastri's manager is?
Mark Webber.
Mark Webber.
Mark Webber.
But he's just like a guy now who has
I mean, he was a long-term Red Bull driver.
Long time. Basically, like, the whole time Seb was at the team, when Seb was winning,
Sure.
Mark was his
Losing.
sidekick.
I just like, in what other industry is there that much like conflict of interest concern?
Could Toto be representing Esteban
Yeah.
to himself?
And I mean, Esteban was part of the Mercedes program.
Yeah.
when This was happening.
Oh.
Well, it's probably smart for him now, especially since I'm like, I don't really care to see Esteban back, but people keep saying he's going to be sent elsewhere. And I'm like, I don't want to lose out on Bottas. I don't want to lose out on Joe. Like,
I
let's just
heard-
keep them in. And who cares about Esteban?
I also saw a rumor that Carlos is no longer Williams' favorite, but they want Bottas because Bottas was seen talking to James Vowles.
So wait,
Why would you
Honestly,
pick Bottas over Carlos?
I think I would obviously pick Carlos, but I think if you're thinking team dynamics, maybe Bottas is better. Because I feel like Alex
I
and
don't
Carlos
know.
are actually at very similar points in their careers, which can be very difficult because they're both trying to achieve something similar.
Mhm.
But it could be great. You could be like, oh, we have two people who are like, they're at the peak moment to win a world championship and they're ready to build this team to do it.
Well,
Mhm.
and I also think that like Carlos has shown over the years that he can get along really well with his teammates, and he will push the team and he'll push his teammates, but like he has never had a fight with a teammate in any way, shape, or form. And
I didn't know
Well,
that you're such a big Carlos fan because I would say that I don't think that's true. But I think he's very good at like resolving them.
what teammate has he fought with, Grace?
Charles
Yes.
Okay,
On the track.
Okay,
and Max.
Okay, let me rephrase this.
We're gonna
Let
get
me rephrase
canceled.
this.
All right.
He's obviously going to like battle hard on the track, but he's been very good about like keeping that separate from having a very cordial friendly relationship with all of his teammates off the track.
I think there's maybe more stuff with Carlos's like family.
Then we realize
Well, that's what people said was happening when he was at Red Bull, was like the issue was not Max and Carlos. They're very friendly. The issue was Yost and Carlos Sr.
Yeah, those are two big personalities.
That's
Ugh.
That's hilarious. Yeah, the deeper you get into the sport, the more you see the cracks.
the yarn starts to
The
unravel.
yarn you just realize it's just one big yarn.
Mhm.
Okay, I think we should go through and make predictions of what drivers are gonna end up at different teams, and then we should
Okay.
move on.
Okay, fine. Let's hear yours, Anne.
Okay, I think at Williams, it's gonna be Alex and Carlos. I think at Haas, it's going to be Ollie Bierman and Checo.
Whoa.
I think at Red Bull, I think Danny Rick is gonna be moved up because Christian seems intent on doing that. And I think Visa Cash App RB would be Yuki and Liam.
Which is a great driver pairing. I love that.
Yes. And I think Mercedes, they're gonna bring up Kimi Antonelli. And I think at Alpine, it's gonna be Pierre and Jack Doohan.
I think that's what they should do. I don't think that's what they're gonna do.
Mhm.
And then Sauber, Nico, and maybe they keep Valtteri. Okay, I want to hear all of you guys' predictions.
Grace.
Okay, I'll give you what I think in this moment, but it could change. Okay, Williams, I think is Valtteri and Alex.
Mm.
Haas, I think is Ollie, and there's someone else who I was thinking was gonna go there.
Esteban.
Yeah, Esteban. That makes a lot of sense to me. I think you're right about the Red Bulls. I think it will go Danny, Max, Liam, Yuki, and then I think Mercedes. The problem is like with the Williams Mercedes connection. But if Mercedes supplies to Alpine, I can see Antonelli going to Alpine and then Carlos to Williams.
If I was
And then-
Antonelli's manager, Alpine is the last place I would ever
I
want
know,
him
but
to go. It seems like such a hot mess. You don't want to
It's
throw a
just-
kid in there.
It's just meant, I think it's different if you really are like junior driver getting a lot of support from the like main team you're going from to like learn and just prepare. Like it's
Sure.
like Charles going to Sauber, where
Yeah.
you're like, you're not going to become a Sauber driver. You're going as a Ferrari junior driver to learn and get a
Yeah.
little experience. I think it feels totally unhinged, this idea that Mercedes is going to just put Kimi Antonelli into a Mercedes next year. That is truly nuts. They didn't do that to George. They made him wait like 3 years at Williams. Like, I just don't believe that's their MO. It seems crazy. You have no idea how they're going to do. They can
But
test
Toto
well.
has been traumatized by losing Max. So
And
he's
Kimi
not gonna
did
lose
really-
Kimi Antonelli.
Kimmy did well this weekend or this past
What do you
weekend.
mean by losing Max, Anne?
Mercedes had a chance to sign Max at some point really early on, and they missed it. And Toto has been haunted by this.
Okay, but it does feel like, it just doesn't feel realistic when you're like, Max started at a junior team. Everyone starts at a junior team. That's normal. You think about, and the reason they do is because you can have people who do really well in the junior formulas or even in testing. They struggle under the pressure of Formula One or whatever is different.
Yeah.
And it feels like an incredibly big culture change for Mercedes to just be like, yeah, we're just gonna bring in a total rookie. Like, I just don't believe it.
Has it been
Who knows?
confirmed officially that Carlos is not going to Mercedes?
Toto has come out and said we don't want Carlos, which is brutal.
That is brutal.
All right, Grace, did you have any more predictions?
That's my prediction. That's what I think is gonna happen. I don't know what's happening at Sauber. That's all a wild card. Maybe it's actually gonna be Bottas and Nico, and then Kimi would go to Williams and then
Carlos
head
is-
towards. No,
Where did you put
Carlos is at
Carlos?
Mercedes. That's
Oh,
what I
Carlos
just
is at
said.
Mercedes.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't catch that.
I missed it too, Jamie.
Okay, so you don't, okay, so why do you think Carlos would go to Mercedes and not Williams?
I think I think the reason that no decisions have been made is because he is holding out for Williams or Red Bull.
You mean Mercedes or Red Bull?
Yeah, sorry,
But did-
Mercedes or Red Bull, and
I see what
that
you're
both
saying.
of
I
them are
agree.
telling him like, well, we can't give you a contract now that's to your liking. Like, I think he's just playing this game of like, I want this specific contract, and I think that maybe both of them have told him they'll give him 1-and-1s, and he said, I don't want a 1-and-1, I want
Yeah.
2. And so now it's like a game of chicken where they're both waiting to see what will happen.
I will say before I was like kind of on this train of like, ooh, Carlos, you should have maybe taken something after Australia. But now after hearing these things about Checo, I'm like, I think he's okay, he's got a plan. And now hearing he's like, I don't know, hearing he studied this past week, and I'm like, okay, this man, he's got a plan. I am not worried about him. He's going to be just fine.
He got the race strategy right this weekend.
Yeah.
He's got a plan for his contract.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, Carlos, I'm surprised, but this is yeah, I think he's doing the right thing by waiting it out because everyone is they're just being silly. So
Anybody else have any predictions they'd like to share?
We could do a wild card prediction.
Yeah, to your wild cards.
I think one of my predictions is Zhou is out.
It makes me so
Me
sad.
too. I don't want to say it, but I think it's reality.
Yeah.
I think, okay, so Carlos goes to Red Bull. I think.
Oh, I love that. That's a wild card, but I think he is waiting.
I
for
said
Checo to
Carlos
lose
to
his
Red
seat.
Bull too. Oh no,
Yeah.
I said Danny, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah.
yes.
Carlos to Red Bull, obviously, I think Max is gonna stay Red Bull. We know Ferrari, so that's good. Mercedes, we're gonna pull up the rookie. It's Mercedes.
I've also heard rumors that Mercedes might bring back Valtteri.
Yes, I agree. They should do that.
What if we put Alex into Mercedes? Put the rookie into.
I don't know if he'd be able to get
Alex.
out of his Williams contract.
Oh, how long is his contract for?
Like 2 more years.
Oh, okay.
I think
Yeah, they
he's
just
very like he's pulling a Lando at McLaren, where you're just like, I am here for the next 5 to 7 years,
Yep.
which I actually think is maybe really smart. But you
I mean,
have to
it's-
be committed to the full 5 to 7 years.
Yes. I mean, if McLaren was a little more on top of their game, Lando would probably have several wins already this year.
I'll pull my wild cards.
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
a few.
Yes.
My first one, I think Logan should stay at Williams. I'm actually pulling
She's
for
a
this.
Logan girly.
I'm not a Logan girly, but Alex and him, they're a great pair. And I was very happy to see Logan do well this weekend, surprisingly. So that is not on my bingo card, but I'm holding that out for my wild card prediction in this round.
I will say,
Um,
regardless of who ends up at Williams with Alex next year, I really hope they keep doing the podcast because it's so
Mhm.
fun.
Yeah, I'm living for it. My second one is Charles to Red Bull. I
Wow.
need Max and Charles to just finish
Oh,
their loop as
Predestina.
their story and come back together and take it home. So that I'm just gonna put that out there. I still am a big Ferrari fan, but they're letting me down majorly. So I'm
I'm
gonna throw that in
obsessed.
there.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see you in some Red Bull merch. Also, like
Oh my
Welcome
gosh.
to the
like-
dark side.
the aesthetic of Charles at Red Bull would be like very good. I'm into the idea.
Mhm.
Wait, so then would Carlos stay at Red Bull or Ferrari or Carlos is still?
Carlos
Ferrari?
gets Charles's contract at Ferrari.
Sure, yeah. Why not give it to him? I rewatched, well, I decided, every so often I'm like, let's just go back to Drives to Survive. And I like put on the first season. I'm like, Danny Rick at Red Bull, that was an era. And in that dark
It was a
suit,
vibe.
I'm like, oh, and you
He
just
looks
see
so
him,
hot.
you just see him like, I gotta go to Renault, and you're like, Don't do it, Danny. Don't go. So I'm also living
Oh.
for this whole Danny coming back to Red Bull if that's really going to happen. But
I'm so nervous about Danny going back to Red Bull.
I think that if Carlos or Charles or anyone is going to Red Bull, what happens first is this season, Danny comes in and does a few races. And if
Yeah.
he is not meeting the Checo benchmarks,
Yeah.
he's out and
Mhm.
someone new is in next season.
Mm.
Yeah.
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 Other things for Silverstone, Haas did wonderful this weekend in terms of with
How has Nico
Nico.
gotten 2 P6s in a row?
Yeah.
Incredible.
He's coming
Insane,
back.
incredible. I
Yeah.
desperately need to add him to my fantasy team.
I don't know anything about him. I'm not really a big Nico fan, but I'm like, okay, right now I'm like happy because Haas is doing well, but
Well,
I'm not sure I'm gonna
also
follow him.
interesting that the Haas is doing better than the Ferraris.
Carlos was in front of Nico. Carlos was
Yes,
fifth.
but they're
The
too
lead
close for
Ferrari
comfort.
was in front of the the lead.
Yeah.
Well, guess what, Grace? Your favorite driver didn't finish behind like a Haas in the last 2 races, so I think you're okay.
I mean, my favorite driver got out qualified by a Haas.
It's so wild to me how different
Oh,
the
wow.
results are from the race results.
Yeah.
What are McLaren colors, like orange or something?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Papaya orange.
Oh yeah. I just feel like it's not Danny Rick's shade.
He
I feel like he looks good in red.
Yeah.
looks
yeah.
good in blue and red.
Those jewel tones.
Yeah, he's a jewel tone
He's
boy.
a jewel tone.
I think that you should do picks just based on
What
like
colors they
what
should-
color looks
Oh.
good on the person.
I love that.
Color analysis is
Like
actually what it's called.
Yeah, it's actually very.
Color
I feel like
analysis.
it's very hot right now. You should do a color analysis for each of the drivers. Like, oh, you're more like winter or spring.
Yes.
I'm already trying to think of who would go good with the lime green of
Steak.
yeah, steak. I actually think Joe
Literally good.
but Valtteri not his color.
Yeah.
So Joe's
What else
saying
exciting happened during this race?
we had a lot of lead changes.
Yeah. It was
I think-
spicy.
Yeah.
This is the most emotional I have ever seen Lewis Hamilton.
It
Oh,
was
when he
great.
brought
It was-
Bono up there.
Yeah.
And the moment with his dad when he got out of the car, that was also incredibly sweet. Which I saw something I think just today that apparently Lewis didn't know that Bono was going up there and he had been like looking for Bono amongst the team when he was like everybody was congratulating him. And then when he like went back to go up in the podium, he was like, oh, you're coming with me.
That's cute.
Yeah.
And that's why I hadn't seen him. Yeah. It was very sweet to see how emotional Lewis was.
I think
It's
that
very,
one of
very
my
sweet.
favorite F1 things is that the winning constructor gets to just send a team member up of their choice. I love. Also, what a great season where we've seen so many different
Yeah.
winners.
Yeah.
I know.
It's been
Yeah.
so good.
But it's
Yeah.
also weird thinking back to like after the first 3 races, everybody thought it was going to be just like last year of like
Yeah.
things might get close, but yeah, Max is just going to win. He's just going to win every week like he did last year.
And
Yeah.
even though he's not winning, he still is incredibly dominant in the championship.
Yes.
Mhm.
But it's so much more fun to have
Yes.
other people winning
I-
besides Max.
Yeah, and it's nice, honestly, that he's already had his like a few championship wins under his belt because I feel like he's genuinely happy for the people who are winning. Like it doesn't, unless he's like really masking it, it doesn't really seem like it's negatively affecting him.
He's in his dad era.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, when Lando won, you could tell like he was genuinely excited for
He-
him.
yeah.
Okay, let
For
me say
sure.
my offensive statement.
No.
I
I
feel
feel like you should just stop there. That's your like signal. Hit the brakes. You already know this is not.
Are you guys seeing those TikToks where they're talking about like how incredible of a dad Max is? And it's literally just him like distracted by sim racing while Penelope is like, hi, hi. And he's like, okay. And they're like, this is the bar we've set for parenting for dads?
I don't think that's offensive. I think that's just true.
Yeah, the slander on Kelly is brutal out there, and then it really they're really painting Max as this incredible. Not that he's not,
Yeah.
I don't know,
I'm
but
just
like,
it
I
is a
feel
very
like-
interesting
I
narrative.
feel like part of the reason those videos are very sweet is because you can tell how much Penelope really does love Max.
Yeah.
But at the same time, yeah, he's just sitting there
Sitting there.
doing sim racing.
Uh,
And not
Yeah.
actually like
Like, is he
engaging
changing all
and
the
spending
diapers? Is
time
he
with
taking
her.
out the trash? Like, what are you doing here, bud?
Which
don't
maybe
know.
he is, but that's certainly not what's it feels like the romanticization videos of stuff where you're just like, I think you just put a song behind nothing.
Mhm. I was gonna say, I think they just are trying to give the people what they want.
Mm.
Like the pictures of like the videos of Lando with the little kids coming up to him, like everyone just like melts over those. And so I think they're trying
It's
to
just
paint
good marketing.
Max
It's all marketing.
right.
the backbone of F1 is on these TikTok girlies and their edits. It's like
Yes.
That's the real.
unparalleled. Yeah.
Okay.
They should be making more money than they are.
Pay them.
Call my
pay them.
lawyer.
Did you
Call my
guys
lawyer.
see? I think after the race sometime, I don't remember when exactly, actually, but Lando and Oscar were out on the Silverstone main stage, and Oscar got talked into doing a shoey, and then he talked
Yes.
Lando into doing a shoey,
Yes.
and then Lando. And it was Oscar's shoe that he had worn out there. Lando just like took his shoe and chucked it out into the ground, and it was Oscar's shoe.
You guys.
And I saw a video of when they were like walking back. I think Oscar had just taken off the other shoe and chucked it out there. He's like, what am I gonna do with one shoe?
Imagine
He's walking
having
back in his
Oscar's
socks.
shoe.
Yeah, well, you would bronze it or something. I don't know.
This was a turning moment for me where I was around when 1D was around, One Direction, but I never got too crazy. I never got like too deep into it. In parallel, this moment has like become a core memory for me. And now I'm fully off the deep end with Landoscar, and it's I'm brought in. The videos have
So-
converted me, and I'm fully like they need
To
to be a
us,
duo for the end of time.
Your shit.
There's they cannot
The
become
Lando
separate
wearing
anymore.
an Oscar bracelet was
Yeah.
very sweet.
Yeah. They're end game, as I said in the chat.
Absolutely. Grace, do you have any comments on that because of the Carlando duo, or are you just kind of like along for the ride?
Yes.
I'm a true believer in Carlando, but I believe in the friendship of Oslando.
What this is kind of what I was thinking, and we may cut this. I don't know. I'm in charge. I think like Carlos was like Lando's first love. I'm like, yeah, they always have like a special place for each other. It's fine. Danny
Yeah.
Rick was like this
I can see
quick,
that.
fun thing, but it was over.
He
But,
was
like,
Yeah.
With Oscar, it's like Oscar is
Danny Rick was a
steady.
rebound.
Oh.
Oscar is a polite cat. He is steady. They
Oscar
match each other
husband
very
material.
well. So it's end game. So that's where I'm like, yeah, Carlos and Lando, they had a special thing.
Yeah.
But
You
this
never forget your true love.
You never forget your first love.
so
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, that's a
Yeah.
really good
I like
breakdown,
that hot
Shelley.
take.
Yeah.
I'll send the video in the chat, the one that I have been rewatching, which is it's not good. So
Okay, here's my Carlando hot take. Have you seen? I feel like I get a lot of older, younger sister content, and there's some like sound where it's like the older sister is like, "You're my best friend. I'm your best friend, right?" And then the younger sister is like, "I'm definitely your best friend." That's what I think. And I feel
Yeah.
like Lando is 1,000% Carlos's best friend in F1. And Carlos is like, Lando's like, we are good friends.
Oh no, I can see that too.
But it's like a sibling love. It's not like he's like, I don't really like you. He's just like, I
Yeah.
have a lot of friends. And Carlos is like, you're my best friend.
Mm.
And I really identify with that.
Uh, yeah. Anything else?
Such a fun race.
Yes, I did have the most FOMO this weekend with all the British drivers,
Were
especially
you
in
wishing you were
qualifying.
there?
Yes, I don't know. I think there's just I think because it's such a big race, there's like a lot of media happening, a lot of things going on that I'm like, this looks like so much fun. And then on top of that, I think because of the drivers and many of them being from the UK, they're all just beaming with pride. It's a good race, turnout, quali, all British drivers. I'm like, there's definitely some magic going on there, and I'm jealous.
Here's
I'm
my hot take for
jealous.
the day. Shelly is going to figure out a way to get a job in social media and F1 and go to all the
Aw.
race way before any of the rest of us to
Yes.
get anywhere close to that.
Manifesting, yes. They look like it's just the most fun job, and you're just playing around with the drivers. I'm like, give me that job. I can easily come up with good games.
She's
Do
got
that
great game
forever.
ideas. Better than the freaking paper airplanes.
It was not it, but it was pretty funny when it all came together. So yeah, definitely looking for a new job. So
Looking for a job in
F1s.
F1.
Looking for a job in F1, social
Yeah.
media,
Yeah.
commentator.
Oh,
Driver facing.
Driver facing.
Job in F1. Games, media, games, driver facing.
yes, yes.
I do wonder about the power dynamic between the drivers and the teams. So, like, obviously the drivers have a lot of power and they get paid a lot, and they're sort of the like bringing the fans and everything for the teams. But like they switch around so much between the teams, and then they're just like representing the teams. To me, I feel like just taking it back to fashion for a second, I think that the drivers should also have their own like brand, so that their outfits really just like highlight their themselves, and then they're like driving for a team, but then they also have like their brand, because I feel like that's kind of already what's happening, but you just don't see it in the like aesthetics. But that's just my hot take. Yeah.
That is a very interesting idea.
Not gonna lie, I feel like Danny Rick started that with his merch line.
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
Yeah.
some teams allow that and some teams do not as well.
Yeah.
So like Charles wanted to have his own fashion line, and then Ferrari was like, you can't do that. Who are they sponsored by?
Are they Puma?
Puma product. They have their own fashion
Oh,
line. I don't
yeah.
know. It's all
But are you saying like their actual?
Yeah, like their
race
driving race
get up?
outfit, it needs to be a little bit more flattering
they
for
get to
them.
do their
Like they
helmets.
should be able to design their own like costume.
their own
You know?
costume.
I just feel like who looks good at McLaren? Some people, not a lot of
one.
people. Some
That
people
outfit's
maybe.
terrible.
Yeah.
You know.
I will say what got me this weekend was I think the Lando's outfit. And I was like, okay, that's my second job, like dream, to just like dress a driver and like be like, the girls are gonna go feral. Like, let's put you in this.
Yes.
Like that feels like a lot of fun.
Wait,
So.
what was Linda's outfit? I missed that.
Someone should pull it up. It
Hold up, Shelly.
was a black t-shirt and jeans, and he did well.
Just
I think
given,
some
like,
of the
bad boy.
Yeah, it's a
and he
bad boy.
pulled up like with his like this old car that he had. It was just like a vibe. I'm like, yeah, he's driving up to his home race. This is where you show out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I did like that chrome car.
Yeah. I don't know the name of it, but it looked cool.
I might be remembering this wrong, but I was like, oh, home races, usually the guys will get a home race helmet. And I was looking at George's. I don't know if this was an old post that I was looking at, but I was like, this helmet doesn't look really any different. And so maybe I was looking at an old post, but I thought he was like showing off his home race helmet, and I was like, this is
Exactly the same as always.
Yeah.
That feels very George.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If that is
Look at
true.
my new outfit.
Yeah.
Same. It's like another, it's all in a row.
Uh-huh.
Oh my
Mhm.
god. Was it this, Shelley?
Oh yes, yep.
Let me get to go. Oh, it's kind of like a greaser vibe.
Yeah, it's definitely got like a 1950s Americana.
I feel like Lando could
Dean.
just put
Yeah,
like
James
one of
Dean.
his curls down and be in
Yeah,
greaser land.
yeah, definitely.
Oh, he definitely got a new haircut.
Fresh
He got
cut.
a fresh cut. That's
We're
for
watching him
sure.
grow up in front of our eyes.
It's true.
He was such a baby the first year he came to Formula One.
It'll be wild to see what Lando's like when he's in his like Seb aged era.
Oh
I
gosh,
feel like
yeah, that'll be
Seb
interesting.
also- yeah, like he aged so well. I'm like, will Lando?
Not where I thought she was going with that.
These baby face drivers. Anyways,
Thanks for
Yeah.
joining us, everybody. We'll see you in a few
Yeah.
weeks for,
Hungry?
I think it's Hungry.
it's
Hungry.
hungry.
Ooh, that
Let's
was almost a year
go.
ago.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah,
Okay.
like, comment, subscribe.
Arrivederci.
Bye, everyone.
Toodles.
Arrivederci.